Episode 1.16, The Immortal Tyrant. Elsewhere, Nethys and the Oracle Studio meet up with the JSA members left behind. Are you alright, Gina? We were running towards Nathaniel to help him, but when we did, this came out of nowhere and it's fine. It's not your fault, replied Gina, silently as she interrupted Nethys mid-sentence. Never forgive Polly for what he did to my father. But I can't dwell on the past either. Nethys, tell me what's going to happen to the others who went through the rift. Even I don't know the answer, she replied. My guess is wherever they were transported to will be the place to end everything once and for all. Meanwhile, within the rift, Justin crash landed into a vacant desert with dark red sky filled with different planets and moons of all sorts. I don't think we're in Montero anymore, said Justin as he wandered off into the eerie silent desert alone. As he continued to wonder, he eventually saw the others off into a distance near an oasis. Justin then calls out to them, which Christine immediately recognizes. There you are, said Christine. What took you so long? What can I say, replied Justin. I just barely made it in that rift. So what's going on? Did you find Khalid? We're working on that right now, replied Ike. I'll use my sound perception to fish him out. Ike then closes his eyes and listens to even the slightest sounds in the area. After moments pass, Ike hears Khalid walking out of a nearby tomb towards the entrance, but his footsteps sounded off and wobbly. I found him. He's a short distance directly in front of us, explained Ike. But there's something wrong. Ike, what's wrong? Asked Christine. It's Khalid, rough, yes. But I also feel Silhouette's presence within him as well. So you're saying they've merged somehow? Asked Ed. Yes, but only as an act of survival, replied Ike. I sensed that the two were on their last legs as Silhouette used most of his powers, grasping his shadow minions, while Khalid is severely injured after dealing with Nathaniel. At any rate, we have to stop them no matter what. Hey, jack up, exclaimed Bruce. I'm just gonna say one thing before we fight. Turn up on his tail. Duh, we could have told you that, added Ed. This is it, everyone. Let's do it, explained Raven. Alright, with these speeches and let's go, said Aaron. The group then ran a short distance from the oasis to find the tomb like Ike said, along with the other ancient ruins. As the team looks around through the ruins, they suddenly hear ominous hands clapping in the shadows. Well, said the mysterious voice. Looks like Nate's dogs finally smelled me out. Well, it's you, Khalid. Show yourself, exclaimed Ike. Oh, the replica that Flame mentioned earlier is here too. How wonderful, added Khalid. But tell me something. Can you all withstand my power, even in this horrendous condition of mine? Khalid slowly emerged out of the shadows of the ruins, covered in blood and severely injured. I must say, this is quite embarrassing. I only brought enough bullets to dispose of Nathaniel. How do you think to fight against a replica and his flunkies? Just shut up, exclaimed Ed. What did you do to Nathaniel anyway? You're an impressively rude and naive little boy, aren't you? Replied Khalid. Well, since you don't know, moments ago I finished taking the life of your beloved leader, and it was all thanks to Silhouette. The entire group was shocked to hear what was just said. You scum! He was your friend, explained Raven. Can you sink any lower than that? Yes, I can, most definitely, replied Khalid. You see, kids, I'm about to shape the world into anything I see fit. By doing so, I'll regain everything that was ever stolen from me throughout my life. And for that to happen, good old Nate had to be put down. We can also tell by how great you look that you didn't come out of that fight unscathed, did you? Said Justin. Look, none of us here want to fight you, exclaimed Bruce. Just drop the tough guy and turn yourself in. If you keep this up, man, we won't have a choice but to what? Kill me? Laughed Khalid. If I die, do you really think my death is going to solve anything? The Borg may retreat, but they will magically disappear because I'm gone. There will always be one in the near future that will become my successor. And when that time comes, you all will be the first on this hit list to kill. You still have to find a way to make it to the aisle first, replied Christine. And you're no condition to even do that. Oh, I won't be too certain, Kali replied, because I'm still able to accomplish my goal, regardless of if I'm dead or alive. By the way, I see some of you have laser guns taken from my pseudo, and all I have is a machete and a pistol with a few bullets left. That seems about there, considering who I'm dealing with. Aaron and Bruce attacked him while his guard was down with their fire and electricity skills. You shouldn't drop your guard on that, said Aaron. With my skills and experience, I can afford to play around and use stars. Replied Khalid as he uses his magnetic repulsion to blast the two back. How does he even have all this power? Explained Christine as she saw that Khalid had multiple superpowers. That's one of the joys of being a dark pseudo, replied Khalid. JSA members are the only ones with full abilities. You should have learned that when you fought my other strong pseudo. As he continued to shoot rays of dark energy towards the group. However, Jester manages to sneak behind them and trap him in a bubble. But the trap is immediately destroyed as Khalid casts sparks for around them, causing Justin to be severely weakened. Ed charges at him with his power strike to do some heavy damage against him. Unfortunately, Khalid flips Ed into the air and kicks him into the sky as he comes down. Alright, he's next. Khalid, as he sees everyone else going to hiding. Out of nowhere, an infinite swarm of rose petals surround Khalid and begin to slice him simultaneously. Khalid then counteracts by using an aura flare on the petals and on Raven as she flashes to the ground. This is boring, said Khalid. Where's the replica? I need some real entertainment. Khalid looks around and sees that everyone was basically defeated. Khalid then spots Ike in far distance and appeared to be charging up with some sort of attack. Khalid grabs the abandoned laser gun from Ed and uses it to shoot multiple shots at Ike. As Ike charges up, he manages to fend off most of the shots. However, a few shots grazed him. Not bad. And now it's my turn to explain. I guess he released a gigantic power so strong that it was almost visible to the human eye. This sent Khalid brutally crashing into the ancient ruins as Ike was suddenly killed due to his replica powers. That's my chance to explain, Christine. I won't let him get away. Not bad, replied Khalid. So, this is the power of fully awakened replicas. I'm actually glad I came to this place. There are so many surprises. Khalid slowly recovered from the blast as he got back on his feet. Khalid was being controlled by Christine using her hidden powers. Got you, said Christine. That power. There's no mistaking it, said Khalid. You're another Azora. Now I see. You're the girl I was ordered to. Immediately, Khalid pauses as he clutches his head in pain and starts screaming while falling to the ground. When he got up, a blood-red aura engulfed the entire area. Long time no see, little sis, exclaimed Khalid as his eyes resembled silhouettes. We can't let you go around stealing your big bro's techniques now, can we? Possessed, Khalid breaks free of Christine's dark hold and approaches her. Silhouette, sharply replied Christine. You're controlling him from the inside, aren't you? That's right, replied Silhouette. His body, as you said, was on his dying breath until I intervened. I like this form, really. The body of the first Star Steel suits perfectly. The accessible should have listened to the thing from the very beginning. He described me perfectly as a two-edged sword, and now I have full control over Khalid's body. By the way, I don't know what pathetic stat gave you the name Christine Monet when your true name is Violet Azora. Silhouette placed his hand over the girl's forehead as she suddenly remembered who she was. Violet Azora, replied Christine. I mean, all this time You've guessed it, replied Silhouette. It's finally coming to memory that you and I are siblings. Christine was overwhelmingly shocked to hear the supposed truth. Even so, your big brother has some big goals of his own to achieve, and I won't let anyone, not even family, stand in the way of the grand finale. Silhouette puts his hands together and unleashes a searing fireball that literally sets the entire desert ablaze. The fireball sent everyone scattering everywhere and sent Justin flying inside the tomb. You know something, Violet, said Silhouette. This body was once an immortal being until that power was taken away by Nathaniel. However, I know a way to get it back. At that moment, the shadows act as dark capsules that enclose Christine and the group as they all are trapped within the capsules. See that, little sis? When I absorb you all, this body will regain its immortality. In that long glass, I will become the living savior of the new world. As the group screams for help, Silhouette begins to exhort them as he laughs maniacally. Justin uses his powers at full force as he uses his water shock to speed towards Silhouette in seconds. When Silhouette turns around, he sees Justin coming closer. As Justin shoots a laser at Silhouette, he also uses Kali's last bullet on Justin. Both are at arm's length as they shoot each other simultaneously. It looks like both of us are going down, says Silhouette quietly. No, it's just you. Justin replies he discarded his safety belt. Moments later, the possessed Kali laughs maniacally as he, along with Silhouette and his tone, fade into darkness and form a cloud of blood-red crystal. So that's the remnant of a dark seal, said Justin. That was amazing, but now we're going to have to deal with the will of Set, asked Christine. I know, replied Justin. I'm willing to take that risk and lose someone else. Back on Earth, countless shadows and pseudo began to fade into black and merge above the clouds. The remaining members of JSA observed this phenomenon, along with Methods and the other pseudo. No, they weren't supposed to do that, exclaimed one oracle. What's wrong, asked Dante. Khalid is using the last of his dying power to become an immortal monster, replied one of the oracle pseudo. This can't be, exclaimed Nethys. He's already broken the taboo and now he's going even further? Elsewhere, the ominous crystal, along with the other lesser shards, began to regroup and merge into an inky black orb, which continued to grow until it took the form of a gigantic black and red set monster. Set animal. I'm free, exclaimed the entity. Never again will I have to obey the requests of that foolish human, and it was all thanks to you all. The set animal then blasts his gigantic fireballs from his mouth, and then runs straight for the wishing owl. Christine had just enough power remaining to shield the group from the multiple blasts. The other team members returned to Justin, Christine, and Knight, asking them about what just took place. We don't have time for questions, exclaimed Knight. We have to stop that monster from getting his hands on the wish. How are we supposed to do that? Something like that, asked the Raven. Besides, you and Christine and the rest of us can barely even stand. Hold on. Hold that thought, Raven. I've got something that might help us out, replied Christine as she pulled out the white shard from her pocket. She then threw the shard in the air right above the group, which released a healing orb that healed their injuries to the fullest. Okay, we just got healed, but how are we supposed to catch up to that thing and stop it from getting into the owl? Asked Aaron. Just close your eyes and imagine you're flying in the middle of the air, replied Christine. What are you talking about? This ain't no game. Paused Aaron as he saw the others flying and telling him to hurry up. Alright, you said close our eyes and I imagine flying, said Aaron to himself. When he opened his eyes, he was already flying, then caught up with the others. The giant monster makes his way to the owl, but is eventually stopped by an enormous platinum drone. What is this thing? Get out of my way! The beast exclaimed as the two giants fought each other, while Set was distracted with the drone and used his powers to boost everyone's attack and soared towards the monster, breaking some of his teeth with his power strike. Ike then told Christine and Raven to hold him off as he charged up for his final move. Christine shoots beams of light at the creature, temporarily blinding it, while Raven uses a pale symphony to slice and drain the monster's power from him simultaneously. That's enough. Stop it right now! Exclaimed Set, and then unleashed fearsome typhoons, powerful earthquakes, and even deadly forces in the team flying. Out of nowhere, Set spots the two injured girls and decides to eat them. However, Justin intervenes by throwing the two back to get swallowed instead. The monster belches to notice that Ike is charging up for his awful attack. You foul mongrel, saying Ike. It's about time I make you behave once and for all. Piercing sound waves, dog whistle. Ike sent a clearly visible sound wave towards Little Set, causing the monster's ears to bleed excessively. while the others didn't hear a single thing coming from his final attack. The monster was in extreme agony as the group went for preventive strike. Everyone, now's your chance, exclaimed Ike. It's time to give out all we've got. Yeah, then gives his all and comes at set with his final move, Millennium Strike Barrage. This move caused Ed to land 1,000 hard strikes on the set, causing major damage to knock the monster down to the ground. Christine uses the skill Dark Clutches as a shadow binding move so great that it can hold great giants in their place with ease. With that big opportunity, Raven uses the roots of Deep Drossel, an inextensible plant move that literally drains all energy from its victim, rendering it powerless. Bruce, Aaron, now's your turn, exclaimed Raven. Out of nowhere, Aaron uses all of his firepower to morph himself into a blazing phoenix, while Bruce absorbed large amounts of electrons into his mace, and with his power became a cutlass of solid electricity. The two charged that set with inimaginable blinding speed that sent the monster flying into the air, spitting Justin out of his mouth, which caused Christine managed to safely retrieve him with the last of her powers. Did we do it? As the atmosphere got really silent afterward, the group went to see if the monster was still alive, but after saw the body was in his life. But afterwards, they saw the body of a lifeless creature. It's like, that's that. Now, all we have to do is find a way to get out of here. As the group started walking, the will set began to slowly regenerate. When the monster regained its stamina, Set merely swiped its paw on the surface of the ground, and legions of shadow pseudo emerged from its stain. As they kept walking, Bruce and Aaron yelled, "Look out!" as the pseudo began to surround and drag them all into the inky darkness. "I must say, you all got the better of me that round," said the monster. "But you forgot one thing. I'm immortal. You children will make excellent additions to my collection." Everyone screamed and was dragged into the black void as they all feared nothing would save them. In the midst of the darkness, there was just a small light that appeared to the group, saying, "What's wrong?" said a familiar voice. "Are you going to give up right now?" "That voice, is that you, Nathaniel?" asked Ed. "A small light in darkness can void the shadows," said the voice, "as well as a glimmer of hope can overshadow doom and despair. You all have the ability to bring about a new beginning and not the end, so please, try again just once more." Before the small light faded away, it shined its great power amongst the group as they all escaped and returned to the battle. "Impossible!" exclaimed the monster. "How did you escape?" The will set sent blazing fireballs, comets, and even violent thunderbolts at the group, but they were all protected by a strange light barrier. "How is this even possible?" exclaimed the monster. "I am superior in every way. There has to be a trick." "There was a trick, and it's on you, the one who did it yourself," replied Justin. "You are the biggest fake I've ever seen." By combining his two shards and the powers of those around him, Justin was able to awaken to the power of the Aurora. Justin uses his newfound power to trap the monster into a bright, colorful, translucent pyramid that illuminated throughout the desert. Then, with all their strength, JSA managed to send a powerful aura beam that constantly pierced the will set as his body began to turn to pure ice. The monster let out a final screech of agony before it was frozen into solid ice from inside and out. As the completely frozen monster shattered into countless pieces, an unknown item from the will set remained levitating in the air, the Raffle Aura. The group took it and said it felt like a heavy bubble that can't be popped or penetrated. Soon afterwards, the desolate area began to shine bright blue skies, and the scorching desert soon became a breezy grass plain filled with flowers of all sorts. "This place is so beautiful," said Raven. "It's like something out of a fairy tale." "This time, we really did it," exclaimed Christine. "Hey Justin, what is that move you pulled off back there anyways?" asked Ed. "Where did you learn to do something like that?" "That wasn't me. It was all of our powers when we put them together," replied Justin. "So what now?" asked Ike. "What are we going to do with that aura?" I'll hold on to it for the time being, said Justin as he shrunk the aura down to pocket size. Hey, over there, exclaimed Aaron. I see something. Shortly afterwards, the group looked ahead of them and saw the wishing owl just a few feet ahead of them. When they reached the owl, they saw a figure of light awaiting them. Thank you, noble heroes, for the great deeds you've sown this day, said the Guardian. You have my eternal gratitude, which is why I shall grant you all one wish to see that your deeds won't go unrewarded. That voice is so familiar. Are you Nathaniel? Asked Justin. Nancy revealed itself. It changed into a bright spectre version of Nathaniel. I took the form of the one close to you so you all can understand what's going on, said the Guardian. Then it was really true, replied Christine. Nathaniel was killed like Khalid told us. Unfortunately, there was no lies in Khalid's words, the Guardian replied. But you see, Nathaniel personally chose this fate. Are you saying he wanted to go out like this? Explained Aaron. Not at all. He knew that the moment he performed the Athelian halo, his life would be tragically cut short. To save everyone, he purposely jeopardized his life by using godlike powers while still being a mortal man. Then you must have the power to revive him back from the dead, right? Asked Ed. Why focus on the dead when the living still needs your help? Replied the Guardian. Understand that your leader's bravery was not an act of foolishness, and it was his very bravery that helped you fight against Khalid and Silhouette, because if they had came here at full strength, you know things would not have turned out the way they did. The group was completely surprised to hear the Guardian say those words. Hey, you all. Just accept that things happen for a reason, said Bruce. Precisely my point, replied the Guardian. However, you can tell his children that their father is finally at rest and is doing fine. We will. I see to it myself that I'll let them know, replied Christine. And after you've made your wish, you all step on this shining sun on the floor behind me to return yourselves back to Earth. I was just about to ask that, but you already answered it, added Aaron. The team came together and carefully decided on the one thing they all wanted to wish for. When they all came to an agreement, they all wished to restore everything they could in the city back the way it was. The Guardian silently nodded his head, and a large light began to engulf him as he faded away to the bright sky. When they returned to Earth at the top of the tower, they saw that everything was beautifully restored. All the destroyed buildings were now good as new. The main JSA members and military soldiers became virtually unscathed. When they returned to their friends and family, the group and their other teammates embraced each other and told them how happy they were to know that everyone was okay. Gina and Dante, as well as everyone else who observed, were especially glad to see that they defeated Khalid and saved the world from them aboard. While everyone else rejoices, Justin notices Nethers out in the distance quietly watching everyone else celebrate together. Why so silent? You were part of this too, right, Nethers? If it wasn't for you giving us that advice and Christine that shard, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah, you're right, replied Nethers. Hey, guess what, everyone? Awesome party at our door tomorrow. Make sure you invite everyone, including that mysterious beauty right over there, exclaimed Ed as he pointed to Nethys, which made her face turn bright red. As the day ended, the three brothers later returned home after a very long, life-risking adventure to their parents' embrace. The next day, Ed, as promised, threw a wild party at his dorm. So wild, the police eventually shut it down when just when things got good. Okay. That following week, Justin and his friends received word of Nathaniel's memorial dedication ceremony and decided to attend, no questions asked. Prior to the ceremony, Christine paid a visit to Dante and Gina at Pastor's house to tell the three about the heroic sacrifice Nathaniel made to save everyone, and were wholeheartedly relieved to know that everything was okay. They also said that they figured that he would do something like that and were relieved to know that he's finally at peace. After the bittersweet ceremony, all JSA members were informed that a new commissioner has stepped forward to carry on Nathaniel's legacy. Okay, this was the penultimate chapter titled The Immortal Tyrant. The next chapter in perhaps the final chapter of this audiobook series will be called the epilogue. And like always, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thank you all for listening.